Sony completely reversed their decision on closing the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation Vita online stores and straight up says they made the wrong decision. Let's get into it. So we already touched on most of the issues that came with Sony initially making the decision to close the PlayStation 3, the PlayStation Portable, and the PlayStation Vita stores. One of which being that there's a massive community still surrounding those consoles, from just gamers to developers as well. There are developers who are still strictly making games for these older consoles. And speaking of the developers who are still making games for these consoles, none of them knew that these store closures were coming. A lot of these developers found out that the PlayStation 3, the PSP, and the PS Vita stores were closing after these news articles started rolling out. So as a result, all of these developers started scrambling to make sure their games were complete by the deadline of July 2nd or August 27th. But there were other developers who were in the middle of making a game and straight up said that there's no possible way they can make the deadline and release their games before these stores close. Not to mention, most of these developers were going to lose their own games forever. But another important thing to mention is the fact that many gamers love to go back and play older titles, including myself, but by removing legitimate means of playing those older titles or purchasing those older titles, you leave people with no choice but to resort to things like piracy and jailbreaking their systems in order to preserve their games themselves. But now, with that recap out of the way, the president and CEO of Sony, Jim Ryan, made a statement. And it reads here: recently, we notified players that the PlayStation Store for the PS3 and PS Vita devices was planned to end this summer. Upon further reflection, however, it's clear that we made the wrong decision here. So today, I'm happy to say that we will be keeping the PlayStation Store operational for the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation Vita devices. However, PSP Commerce functionally will retire on July 2nd, 2021 as planned. When we initially came to the decision to end purchasing support for the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation Vita, it was born out of a number of factors, including commerce support challenges for older devices and the ability for us to focus more of our resources on newer devices where a majority of our gamers are playing on. We see now that many of you are incredibly passionate about being able to continue purchasing classic games on the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation Vita for the foreseeable future. So I'm glad we are able to find a solution to continue operation. I'm glad that we can keep this piece of history alive for gamers to enjoy while we continue to create cutting-edge new game worlds for the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5 and the next generation of VR. Thank you for sharing your feedback with us. We're always listening and appreciate the support from our PlayStation community. So it needs to be said that this is another instance that proves that the gaming community is just fucking awesome. Many of us within the gaming community made our voices heard, that it made an impact, and that is just, it's fantastic to see every single time that happens. I love it. And with all that being said, while we're on the topic of game preservation and backwards compatibility, and Sony is clearly listening to what we have to say on the matter right now, I feel as though for us as gamers, we should not waste this opportunity and use this time to let Sony know that from now moving forward, we want to see all of our future consoles have backwards compatibility. And as for the PlayStation 5 and for the PlayStation 4, you can still make these older titles available digitally. So as much as I want all future PlayStation consoles to have backwards compatibility natively, the reason why I think we're not seeing backwards compatibility natively on our consoles for PlayStation is because of the fact that PlayStation now exists. I believe Sony wanted to step away from backwards compatibility natively and put all the older titles behind a paywall, because the whole reason PlayStation now exists is for us gamers to be able to stream our older games. So I believe we may not see backwards compatibility natively on any future consoles, but we may see an unless we push them on that, we may see an expansion of our gaming library on PlayStation Now. So this is a major win for those that are playing on the PlayStation Vita and the PlayStation 3. But for those of you who are playing on the PlayStation Portable, the PSP, guys, I'm so sorry. I'm imagining that has more to do with the fact that the PlayStation Portable is the older of the three. I'm assuming. And as for Sony themselves, this is amazing. This is absolutely fantastic to see. It is great to see that they're genuinely listening to their community and responding and taking action so quickly. So Sony, good on you. Credit where credit is due. Bring more games over to PlayStation Now, though. Clearly, you don't have a big enough game library, and or you need to bring these games that are on these specific older consoles over to PlayStation Now, or just make them available via a regular download. There are a number of people that it's mostly about the experience. They want to be able to boot up an older console and play an older title on that older console as if they were, you know, playing it back then. I'm the exact same way. I still have my Nintendo 64 downstairs. I still have my PlayStation 1. I still have my PS2. Trust me, I feel you. But in terms of a long-term solution, yes, these games also need to be available on current and future gen consoles, both digitally and natively as well. Natively, so that when the PlayStation 6 and 7 comes out, my current investments aren't completely useless and I can still play these games. But older titles need to be available digitally as well, because these can degrade over time, get lost or stolen, and so on and so forth. But another very important thing to mention is the fact that these developers that, you know, they thought they were going to lose their games forever. They were rushing to get their games out in time. And, you know, mistakes can be made by doing that. Some of them they were in the middle of working on a game and they just thought the whole project they were just going to have to abandon it because Sony was closing down the store for the game that they were working on for these consoles. But I'm so happy that things are going to be okay for them now as well. Either way though, I think Sony would make a ton of people happy if they make backwards compatibility available natively alongside digitally as well. Anyway guys, I love you all, and I'll see you in the next one. Let me know how you feel about all this in the comment section, and take care. It is so late / so early. I couldn't even read right. I'm going to bed now.